All right, I got to get going because I get 1,500 seconds to do this presentation. All right, and I got a lot to show you. I actually didn't expect this many people. I mean, I don't know how many people are actually using Home Assistant today. Awesome. Cool. You guys might be even using it in different ways and, more than I actually am, but I actually, kind of became addicted to it. And that's because I tried a couple different things before. You go with the standards, Google Home and Alexa and all that. But then I tried Habitat. I don't know, anybody try Habitat? I hated it. I really did. I threw it against the wall. I was like, screw this. Because it was just such a pain and to do anything in it. And that's just me. I mean, it could be different for you. Okay, but that's just me. So it's good to see that people use actually Home Assistant. Anybody in here consider themselves a Home Assistant expert? No? Oh, Justin, come on, man. What are you doing in here? All right, so I'm just going to run through this real quick. My name's Mike Nelson. I'm actually a tech evangelist at Pure Storage, and that's how you get a hold of me if you want to get a hold of me. And we're going to be talking about Home Assistant. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you very much. Can't say enough to everybody, and really appreciate you chipping in to help out the cause. Okay, so Home Assistant. Anybody in here never use Home Assistant? All right, so briefly, Home Assistant is basically a home automation system. And it's evolved beyond that. It's actually more than just home automation. It can do a lot of different automations. It can actually automate your entire life if you wanted it to, in terms of things that you do from day to day with objects you interact with, different devices, different, even different patterns in your life. I'm going to show you some of that. But it really is kind of like if you take Google Home and Alexa, and if you use those are like prepackaged. We built the hardware. Now we're going to build some software to run it. And we want you to use only our stuff, and we're going to fit inside of this box. All right? And you have to, get used to, you're just talking basically to a chatbot. And that chatbot is doing things for you, executing routines and things like that. When you get into devices like Home Assistant or Habitat, anybody here from the UK use Homey? Okay, nobody? All right, so that's another one. It's really a lot more flexible. It gives you a lot more things that you can do with it, a lot of more integrations. It is completely open source, and it's supported by the community. And they have a core group of people that actually runs it, and they're really diligent on updating. It's very active. So anybody who's kind of paranoid of using it, just because it is open source, PowerShell is open source. I hope you're not paranoid of using that. But it really is supported from that aspect. Now, it's community support. So it's not like you can call Google support and get them to help you out. Well, shit, if you try and call Google support, you don't get anybody anyways. So it's the same, you actually might get a little bit better, all right? When you use Home Assistant, when you set it up, there's a couple different hardware platforms. Now, it runs on just about anything, okay? And I use that term lightly, anything. But if you have old computers, if you have Raspberry Pis, if you have, VMs, it'll run in a Docker container. They're all different kinds of platforms it can run on. This right here is a Home Assistant Green, okay? And what this is basically it's a variation of a Raspberry Pi that they put together. And they sell for 90 bucks, all right? So you can buy this for 90 bucks. And this is self-contained. You boot it, plug it in the network, put in a HDMI, and it boots up and it goes right into Home Assistant ready for you to set up. It literally takes about 5 minutes, and you're all ready to go. Now, what you're going to need to do along with that is a whole bunch of other things, not only software integrations, but the hardware ones, like this one. This one is a human presence detector, all right? This right here, this device, $9 on Amazon, okay? So this thing will do humidity, it'll do human presence, it'll do motion, it'll do variances in lighting, okay? So these little $9 devices you can just stick up on the wall, and you can actually monitor, human presence, animal presence, things like that. These are the kind of devices that you can get today that are really inexpensive, that tie directly into Home Assistant, okay? These devices will not work with Google Home, all right? I shouldn't say not all these devices, but like the really inexpensive ones aren't certified for Google Home, they're not certified for Alexa, all right? So you have to be careful if you're running both. The other thing you're going to need is some kind of a way to talk to Z-Wave or Zigbee devices. Okay, so if you heard about Z-Wave devices, it's kind of like a mesh network. Zigbee is kind of the same way, but if you go out and you buy light switches or even light bulbs and things like that, they use a technology called Zigbee or Z-Wave. And there's two different distinct things, but they don't use like Wi-Fi, okay? Wi-Fi is probably the worst thing you can use from a protocol standpoint in your home automation. And that's just because it is the easiest to put a man in the middle, all right? So if you go with home devices, try and stay away from Wi-Fi. Now, that said, I use devices that have Wi-Fi, I admit it. And that's just because, I live and learn kind of a deal, right? So you're gonna need something that can talk to those, and it's just a USB stick. That's all it is. You can get one for Z-Wave, you get one for Zigbee. And then you'll be able to set up all those devices directly into your whatever device you're using. Green. They also sell something called a yellow, which a Home Assistant yellow, which you actually build yourself, which is cool. But my purposes, I use a Raspberry Pi 5, and I actually have the 8 gig model, and I use what's called an M2 hat. Anybody know what an M2 hat is? Cool. What it is, if you don't know, it actually sits a board that sits on top of your Raspberry Pi that screws in, and it will host an M2 drive. All right, so I boot off of that. Home Assistant boot up is like lightning fast compared to booting off an SD card. All right, so SD is going to be a little slower, but the M2 is really, really fast. Okay, so I know somebody might have a question, but I'm going to wait until the end. All right, so how will this help my life? It simplifies the mundane, accomplishes X and Y and Z all at the same time, takes complex. Automations are way cool. And of course, when you do this, you are considered a maker. Woohoo, I'm a maker. Yeah, because when you start getting involved in a lot of these things that you can automate, you start getting into things that, hey, I can do this and I can do that. It may even lead to you doing some hobbyist stuff where you're actually working with ESP boards and, having fun with those things, which I did. And I have a lot of fun with them now. So it leads to a lot of other things, at least in my situation, and I think a lot of others. All right, how this will help me in tech. The reason why I put this in here is because a lot of folks will wonder why I would want to do it outside of my personal life or my home. And part of it is because you can control all of these things. They're just objects. They're just IoT objects. If you're in a data center and you have lights, it's the same thing as having lights in your house. Okay, it's just an IoT object. You can do things. I have on the bottom here, you do things, people, code, and TPS reports. Yes. And the reason for that is because Home Assistant actually has integrations that hook directly into everyday software applications. So Home Assistant can actually talk to Office 365. Home Assistant can print PDFs. It can do all these things. It's a complete automation system. Oh yeah, you got to impress the Bobs. Because they're asking what you do, and you just say, I automate everything. Okay, so I'm going to show some examples here real quick. Any idea why you would run Ethernet out to your mailbox? I mean, anybody do that? Justin, you have to. Come on, man. So I could see it. If you're living in a rural area and your mailbox is like half a mile away at the end of your really long driveway, like Justin's mansion that he lives in, he has a really long, winding driveway, that he has to bring his Bentley up into. When he does that, it's up to you. There is a thing called Wi-Fi. It is 2025, but yeah, so these are some things that I found. This one's kind of cool because you can actually bring full floor plans in. There's something called Sweet Home 3D that's actually a free plugin to Home Assistant where you can actually create your floor plan and use that as a visual, all right? So this is considered a dashboard. These dashboards can run on anything. I mean, they can run on a computer, but they can also run on pads that sit on your wall, okay? Just tablets that can connect to a website. That's all they have to do. So they can run on your phone, they can run on, on the wall, anything. So think about this is if you walk into your house and you see a picture of your house and you can just touch lights and turn them on and do things like that and unlock doors and do all that stuff. You can do that. What's this one? Oh, this is energy. So Home Assistant actually started out, when they first started building this, they were focused on the energy usage of homes. And when they really put a lot of effort into this. So the thing they always come back to is you can always find out how much energy you're using. And they've expanded that because some of the integrations now will actually tell you how much energy you've used. So this is kind of a cool dashboard. We talk about from the IT perspective. There are things out there called like the HASS agent, H-A-S-S agent. And you can put that on servers and desktops. And it will give you a list of a bazillion sensors that you can use that will report back to Home Assistant. And you can monitor your entire infrastructure of computers, desktops, laptops, so on and so forth, directly inside of Home Assistant. This is an example of a Dell server, okay? So if you think about it, if you have a small data center, a little smaller company, something like that, you could actually put these agents on those servers and be able to monitor it. I know DRAC can do it, right? But DRAC has a lot of overhead. And it has, requires some special things to get them to appear all in one screen, kind of like an all-in-one. HASS agent, you just create a dashboard and you just pop in whatever you need. Okay, then this is PCs. So from a computer perspective, so if you wanted to have different dashboards for different PCs or be able to select computers and be able to see what they're doing, this is just an example of what you can do. And then finally, this is the coolest one. And the reason why I say that is because this is what I want to get to in my situation. And what it is the ability to not only take a floor plan, but also be able to detect human presence anywhere within the home. All right? So if you take a look at this, these sensors where you see the stick figures, those are all human presence sensors. So I can always detect, it's kind of like, the movies that you see where you have the guy who lives in the wilderness and, he was part of a special forces team and now they're coming to kill him because he knows too much or something. And the alarms go off because he's got all these sensors all over his property. That's what I'm really going towards that goal because I think it's kind of cool that I can know whenever anything happens around my perimeter, okay? You can control everything too because not only is it presence, I can actually control like if you have blinds that automatically open and close, lighting, things like that. Everything from, I can control appliances, you name it, all from a single dashboard. All right, so that's it for slides. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got an implementation, my implementation of Home Assistant. All right. Well, first of all, this is some websites. I don't know. You can be interested in. There's always a good, awesome, anything awesome. Okay. So you put awesome into GitHub and you say awesome blank, and you'll get a listing. Awesome Home Assistant. Literally, everything you'd ever want to look at for Home Assistant. Just in case you're wondering about that. But this is my implementation. Now, when you first log in, it's all customizable. It doesn't really matter. I mean, in terms of what you have set up, you can totally customize it to you or any individual that logs in. So each individual person can log in and get a totally different experience than the other person. But when you take a look at it, you basically open up into an overview. This contains every single entity inside of my house that I've actually integrated. So you can see I have cameras in the house. There are cameras in the backyard. I have right here, I have a thermal that I was trying out. I have cameras in my basement, cameras outside pointing at my fence, all kinds of stuff. You notice I can control switches, things like that, even thermostats, all that kind of fun stuff. All right. So when you start adding things to Home Assistant, it automatically creates one dashboard that contains everything you add. All right. And that one dashboard is not something you're going to use all the time. I.e. this one. It's because it's filled with everything, and it's really confusing. That's why they give you the capability of creating your own dashboards, so they're a lot more clear, and you know what to actually put on them. Okay. One device, what's that?
One device can add 100 objects on that dashboard.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing about it is when you add a camera, so I add, anybody used to use Reolink cameras? Okay, so Reolink cameras by default are very open in their API. And what they do is they actually, when you add one device, it'll give you 97 different entities, what they call entities, that you can use on that device. That includes everything from the camera temperature to the aperture to the motion to sensitivity to you name it. It's got everything in there. All right. But then you get some other devices. If anybody's familiar with Nest, the Nest doorbell cameras, they give you 2, literally. And to me that sucks. I have a Nest doorbell camera and I've been wanting to replace it. My wife is she likes it because it gives her, on her Google display, she can see all this stuff. But I really wanted to replace that because I need something that gives me more information, gives me more data. And what I want to do with that is I want to automate with that. Every time that camera sees something, I want it to do something. I want it to turn on a light. I want it to notify me. I want it to say there's a package at the door. I want it to say there's a car in the driveway. I want you to record the license plate of that vehicle in the driveway. I want you to do this, 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 and this. All right? But with a limited device like the Nest, you can't do that. It's not possible because they don't give you enough of the entities or the sensors to do that. All right, so what I want to show you is we're talking about automation. I'm not going to get you, real confused about going into all these different things and showing you how this is all set up. When you get into Home Assistant, there is a specific place for automation. It's called automations and scenes. Now, there's different components. There's an automation, there's a scene, there's a script, and there's a blueprint. You can see them across the top there. A blueprint is something that is like a template. All right, so somebody created a template, they call it a blueprint, and they make it available for you to download and use. So you can just plug it right in, all right, and then put in your different devices and you're ready to fly. It's kind of like a piece of code that's universal and you just say, go ahead and use it, The scripts part is where you can actually write scripts. You can actually put scripts together and use them in automations. You can execute them as standalone, or you can put them inside of the far left there, which is automations, which means that it can work in conjunction with scenes. Anybody figure out what a scene is? What would a scene be? A typical scene, you came home, what happens when you walk in the door? Lights go on. That is a scene, okay? You create a scene. You can create that scene in terms of how bright is the light? What color is the light? All that kind of stuff. That is considered a scene, all right? You're doing automation, but you're not really having fun at it. If I put it the way I think about it, is I wanted to do 10 different things. I wanted to do one thing. I wanted to do a whole bunch of other things. Now, call me complicated. My wife says that I make things too complicated, and I have to dumb them down when they don't work. Yeah, I'm an engineer. That's what happens. But the thing is, when you over-engineer something like this, you can find out some really cool shit that you can do. All right? So that's one way to set up your automation. So when you're here, just to give you an example of the automation, I've only got 5 minutes left. Nope, 10 minutes left. As a simple automation, well, first I'll go to scripts. So here you see snapshot LLM response with notify. Home Assistant has built-in integration, AI, okay? It's a basic thing. But there's also third-party or community add-ons that you can bring in, integrations, that hook you up with Google Gemini, OpenAI, Azure AI, Olama, local AI. I said that already. You can hook all those into Home Assistant and use them. All right? So to show you, if I go into integrations, this shows all the integrations that I have and the different ones. I mean, here you've got the August door locks, Bluetooth, Brother printers, calendars, my Ecovacs vacuum, robot vacuum, all that kind of stuff. But you'll also notice that when I get in here, you have Google Generative AI, all right? Get down here, we have something called LLM Vision, all right? So LLM Vision allows you to set up and talk to multiple LLMs, all right? The reason why I'm showing this is because using AI, you can create some really, really cool automations and really, really complex automations if you want to. All right, so if I have that integration connected to AI, I can go out here and take a look at my scripts, and I have one that says take a snapshot and send it with a notification. You can see it's just a visual editor. It basically, you step through it and you just create things. So I'm taking a camera snapshot of my driveway. That's all I'm doing. I'm using the driveway camera, that's the ID, and then I'm delaying it for 4 seconds so it can evaluate the image. Then the actual image analyzer, you'll notice when it looks at it, I'm giving it a prompt, just like you would give a prompt to ChatGPT or to Copilot. You basically give it a prompt and tell it what to do when you're looking at that image. All right? Now, you can be really creative with this prompt. And I'm telling you, you can tell it to do a lot of weird stuff. But yeah, I can tell it right here. I can actually change this. All right? And I can say, you know what? You are funny and also sarcastic in your response. Whoops. All right. So, and I spelled you wrong. There we go. I'm putting that response into a variable. I'm defining the variable response by saying include emoji. If it's applicable, make sure your response is conversational since it's being sent in an interactive notification. Then I'm sending a notification to my mobile cell, my cell, okay, to Mike's cell. All right, and then I do a stop. So basically saying stop looking at the image, stop evaluating it, you're done. So I can save this, but I can actually run it too. So if I actually go here and I can do a run script, you can add fields, you can do all kinds of stuff. But if I do a run script here, and it triggered, but I didn't get it yet. Oh, come on. There it is. You can't see this, but it says a snapshot of the driveway shows a clear and dry pavement with no rain, ice, or snow present. There's no visible people or animals in the image, and no packages are present. The area appears quiet with no vehicles parked in the driveway. Overall, nothing is happening inside of this snapshot. All right? So it's basically telling me that it doesn't see anything. What it's looking at is my driveway camera, which is right here. I didn't save it. That's why it didn't give me that. Hang on. Don't save. My driveway camera. Right there. You can see it on the bottom there. There's nothing there. There's no cars. There's no nothing. So it really has nothing to look at. Okay? If you're looking at my backyard, that's a different story. I can say that I had surveyors there today. You can see these guys were walking around doing surveys of my property because I'm having a property line dispute with my neighbor. Yay! We put up a fence, and it appears that, they are 7 feet onto our property. This is a lot of fun, folks. But you can see it detects it, and they're walking across. You can see, all right, let's see what's happening in the backyard. A person is raking leaves, and a dog is running around. That's my dog and my wife. Probably excited to help, or maybe just more work for the raker. Looks like they're both enjoying a sunny afternoon of yard work. All right, this is AI just responding, looking at the image. Okay. When you get into things, this is where the guy is actually doing mine, and he's saying, you know, we're sure we'll get there. The lawn is looking rather sparse at the moment, but we're sure we'll get there eventually. Yeah. Yeah. So that's when you start giving what they call temperature to the AI agent, right? And you're saying you can be a little bit loose with the way you describe this thing. Okay, so last thing I want to show you, I can get more into that, but I'm going to show you something. Anybody use here Node-RED? Okay, so you've used Node-RED before. So anybody who doesn't know what Node-RED is, whoop, I'm sorry, that probably looks crappy. Node-RED is just a visual way to set up communication, wired communication between devices or entities. All right, it doesn't have to be a physical device. It can be a decision. It can be, a fundamental thing. It can be, an and or if kind of a deal. It can go against device state if something is on or off, something is true or false, all that kind of stuff. And it basically just creates it in a visual pattern, so you can go ahead and look at this. What I've got here is if I go back here, you can see I've got 3D printing, right? So if you picked up any of those bag tags off the table, I made some of those. But what I've done is there's actually a flow in Node-RED that authenticates Home Assistant to Bamboo, okay? Bamboo Labs. It authenticates to the cloud. And then it allows it to look at the printer and understand what the printer is doing, give you all that information back to show you all that. All right? And that's exactly what this flow is doing right now. And it's, come on. All right, so this flow is actually going out and it's doing all these things. And you see how they're all interconnected, all right? Those are basically, if it has two connectors, it's saying output is yes or no, true or false, and it can go this way or it can go that way. You guys kind of get that concept, right? And it's really kind of cool because you can have an entire decision map based on what you want an automation to do just inside of these flows. Now, I'm not telling you this is easy to do. It definitely is not easy to do right off the bat, okay? It's something that you have to look at. You have to understand all the different objects that you can pick from and all that kind of stuff. But it ties directly into Home Assistant. So any devices that you have, you can bring in a Node-RED and you can go ahead and create those automations visually. All right, which makes it a lot easier than sitting there writing code. I know how much you love to write code. I know it, okay? But it's kind of cool when you don't have to remember device IDs that are this long and you have to go out and find this device ID and this entity ID and add all that stuff. You can just point and click and bring it in. Thank you for coming.